Hi everyone, I'm Sammy and I'm making this video to share a few tips to help get you through TSW as I've been personally suffering from it and I know it's really hard and trust that you will get through the process. And personally, I'm about 4 to 5 months from this topical withdrawal symptoms. And finally, I think I'm slowly recovering and gaining a footing of knowing how to manage, getting into good routine, and returning to some sort of normal. The initial days were really hard, so I hope this video can give you hope and the support you need. And also, I'll be going through this four practical areas in order of what I think is most important. Number one, the sleep and rest. Number two, it's getting into a cleaning routine and knowing what to do in the different four stages of TSW and the resources that you will need. And number three, kind of clothing and practical little tips that help me getting the support you need. And number four, which I think is the underlying most important, is how to get into a good mindset and support yourself, as it can be really mentally, physically exhausting. And what are different ways that you can look at it to help you? Number one, I would prioritize sleep. As you might know, the itch and scratch is the worst at the night, and for good reason, as our cortisol levels drop. So we have less of that cortisol to help us combat inflammation, as cortisol helps to regulate immune system and has as with anti-inflammatory purposes, and our body is still regaining all that function. And in the beginning, there are days where I would barely sleep, and then I would try to get some sleep during the day in the next, and then I would feel so guilty and be like, oh, I think I just wasted a day sleeping. Um, but give yourself full permission to get as much rest and sleep as you need, because it is the number one thing that will help you recover. And every time I feel like when I wake up, my skin feels calmer and I'm functioning better. So definitely be kind to yourself and don't feel guilty for having odd hours of sleep. That's another thing. There was this sort of anxiety around the bedtime as it comes, because I kind of dreaded it. And I know it's like painful, it's itchy, and I can't sleep. It's horrible. But gradually accepted that if I sleep, great. Even if it's for 2 hours, I wake up. And if I don't fall asleep, and sometimes I would just watch YouTube videos, listen to music that I like for like an hour, and then fall back asleep again. And then depending on what's on the next day, I might wake up and then take a nap in the middle of the day, or just sleep in if it's allowed, if my day allows me to. And so I really prioritized that and gradually released the need for sleep to be a certain way or to stick to a schedule, because with this it's very unpredictable, and just accept things as they come. And that's also what I've learned so far. Secondly, it's important to know about the four stages of TSW. The TSW Assist has really great resources, and I will also link to a video that has really helped me understand the condition. Initially, I was really against and didn't want to look at those with pictures. It would really trigger me. But over time, you would realize that it's helpful to know which stage you're at, and the pictures kind of help. And so, knowing whether you're, which I would say the most difficult part is the inflammation and the oozing, and a few things to note. And just that this and during the oozing phase, it's really easy to have infection, and I ended up having a major one and being hospitalized. So I'll share a few things that would prevent that. Um, but basically, from this website, you'll be able to see and as the stages, and it also shows you that there's light at the end of the tunnel, like it will recover. The hardest part of all this, which is that you really have to surrender that you don't know when or how long it would take. For me, that was really hard to accept. Um, as it's a case by case basis, and looking at other people's journey helped me to a certain extent. But I would advise against over researching. Basically, all you need to know are the 4 stages of TSW, and which stage you're in, and and a bit of trial and error on your end of how to manage those symptoms. But that being said, the inflammation phase, you would require a lot of ice packs, and as you go through, you would still need a lot of ice packs. But in that most acute stage, I think I was literally living on ice packs. And in that, especially in the beginning, as I was quite newly diagnosed and I happened to be on a major trip across the world, and I didn't get as much rest. So when I came back home, I had a crazy infection, and half of the time I was wondering, is this just a TSW or is this like an infection? But then it got really bad. I got it checked out, and then I was hospitalized. Thank God it was resolved, and unfortunately, I was almost forced to take cortisone again. Um, but I really stood my ground afterwards, and uh, just and that's another thing. That's really frustrating that medical world and doctors do not advocate about this, and you have to advocate for yourself. But I also point to resources that can help you inform how to speak to doctors and getting the care you need. But if it looks like you have an infection and it's crusty and it's yellow, please do get it checked out. Now, looking at cleaning supplies and what to do at different stages. So, in the inflammation stage, you would find yourself, and another thing, bear in mind that in between the stages, as you would learn, you might come back and forth within the cycle. So just really take it as it comes, and sometimes there might not be a clear definition of where you're at, but there will be, you will get into a rhythm of knowing what helps you when you pay attention to your body. And just like everything that I've mentioned here, these are my personal experience, and you might just have come across a lot of other opinions, resources, and what to do. I know it can be really overwhelming, but I would really believe that you'll find your way through listening to your body and knowing what you need in that time. So for myself, I find that in the beginning stages, that really burning stage, a lot of I just wanted cooling things. I also accidentally discovered ice baths. If you don't have one, actually, you can get a portable bathtub. That is great. I don't have a bathtub, but I started plunging myself in cold water, and it was a great help and really soothing, and it has a different effect than ice packs, and you just also at the same time get to clean yourself. And number two is, there are different things that people say that, for example, you can do Dead Sea salt water bath, but I didn't want to risk having open wounds in salt as it felt very painful. But rather, I waited until I reached a point where it was more, more or less my wounds were closed and I was more in the flaky stage that I started using the sea salt bath. And I also found that really helpful and really refreshing for myself. And during the oozing stage, what I did, this is something I learned from the hospital. It's wet wrap, so you would get, yes. And another thing, um, treat yourself like a baby. This is having TSW. Like I've shocked a lot at the baby section. Um, so you can get one of these like cotton pads, like baby cleaning cotton pads. Um, I've tried different things such as using wet tissues, but I found the best is to get one of these cotton pads and then you can wet them in water, squeeze them dry, and then that forms the first layer. So this is like wet wrap, which I later on it could also be effective for eczema. That you have that first layer on your skin, so that's cooling and it helps it make sure to not stick to bandages. And then after that, you can take one of the bandages and then wrap them over it, over your arm or wherever you have those itchy patches, and then tape them. And that really helped me prevent scratching and calm the inflammation, especially at night. And yeah, it also prevents you just sticking to things on your bed. I found that really helpful, especially during the oozing stage. And as I progressed, I used wet wraps a lot less and moved on to using baths more. And currently in the more or less flaky stage, I've been taking baths every day and with different things, occasionally with tea tree oil or dead sea salt. And the other thing is in that phase of oozing, you might feel that. I personally feel that I don't want to be in water, like, because it feels very painful. And so, what I would do to keep myself clean is I would use tea tree oil. Sorry. And it has antibacterial properties, and I would just take a few drops and again use one of these cotton pads, wet them, and then just use them as a wipe all around the body. And you can just pat them gently in the oozy areas as well. It's okay. And that made me feel so refreshed, and also knowing that helps me prevent infection. And it seems to have really made a difference because during that time when I was in my holidays, I cracked my bottle of tea tree and I didn't use it, and I came back with an infection. So, and after that, so go ahead, try it out for yourself.